They're saying right now, we own you. Don't try to change. We own you. And this is wealth. Wealth is empowerment, it's enriching, it makes your families rich beyond their years. And blacks are not allowed to have it. Why? Because it's scary to people who don't have it. And the people who don't have it, that believe they are entitled, are not people of your race. Now, this is about athletes, boxers who have sold their names. And you probably saying like, what do they mean they sold their names? Like, what you mean? Well, when you're in a celebrity status, your name develops a value, and it's enriching. There's money within the title of your name. So when you sign a lot of autographs, it can weaken your brand because there's so many of them out there that it's not really worth anything. So you can damage your brand by signing too many autographs and not the right setting. Meaning that whatever you signed didn't have a lot of value to it. If it was something limited edition that had a signature, then maybe it could be worth something depending on the status of the athlete. Now, you look at George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson. All of their names are gone. Like, they don't own their names. But George Foreman made the most out of his name. He took proceeds and gross, off of every unit sold. He had a unit deal where he got paid per unit when he was selling the Foreman grill. And it got so big and popular that they felt in 1999, let's buy out George Foreman. And let's offer him money he couldn't refuse. Smartly enough for George, this worked out for him. He got $137 million, 137 I think, .5. So with $137.5 million, George Foreman got. He sold all rights and he has no more entitlement to the project. Now the project is going to go from grills, it's going to go to a whole new line of other things that they're going to put George Foreman's stamp on. Now, can George Foreman profit off this still? Even though he sold his name for 130 some million? Yeah. But he will have to cut in the people that bought out his name. The Sultan Group. So the Sultan Group, who owns your name, anything that you're entitled to, you would have to be there to make an appearance on to get paid. So if you want some money out of the deal, for your appearance fee, they would have to pay you for your appearances if they want you there. If someone else wanted to use your name for something, the Sultan Group is going to get a check. They have all ownership of the name George Foreman. You get what I'm saying now? Now you see that how that 137 million now, it doesn't really, yeah, it's gonna do George good, but George is like finna be in his 70s, 80s, if he's not there already. That's his kids' money. Then his kids after that money. Then after that, you see, that's how wealth works, is royalties. No matter what, it keeps making money per year. It rarely decreases down to zero. You won't see Elvis Presley history go down to zero. Elvis has been dead for about 40 some odd years. His wealth is still in the millions every year. Why is that? It's because of the way it was protected. They wanted the king to be on top. Michael Jackson has surpassed him now. Michael Jackson in death, his wealth is so great over Elvis. That just shows you he's making almost triple to what Elvis is. Elvis' rights were bought by another group, the same group that bought out Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali sold his for 50 million. His name was sold for 50 million with that company, this Sky, CKY Incorporated at the time. They got bought out too. But at the time, They had Muhammad Ali rights, and they gave him $50 million. This was like in 2005, and what happened was when they bought his name, they took 80%. Ali and his family gets 20%. But what is not told is a lot hidden in the details. And what I mean in the details, I mean the devil's in the details. Ali got to make these appearances, and he's got to make so many appearances just to live up to make sure he maintains the 20%. And this goes on for his life, because when that day comes when Ali is no longer with us in the physical, his name triples. Everything he has signed triples in wealth. Now that 20% of the family is so important. Now that everything around him becomes so important. That's why you see Layla Ali jump right out of the female boxing. She ain't got a box anymore. After 2005, when he signed that deal, and the kids are getting 20%, what is she fighting for? She don't got to put on gloves no more. So she's going to be famous for being Ali's daughter. And she's going to be a spokesman. She can go around and do this and that. She's going to live off that little 20% while they're raking in all this big money using Ali's name to feed their children and family with the 80% that they have. And you get a little 20, and they'll find a way to chisel that down over the years. When they find a way to manipulate you to take back all of it. And it will happen. Sugar Ray Robinson, God only knows what happens to his name, his legacy, his fighters. They bought his name out. Those details was kept secret because they said, oh, well, he never owned the right. And Ray Robinson did own his name. And he didn't want to sell his name. He owned all his properties to his name. He went through, even though it wasn't his name, he incorporated the name, came out with his own promotional company. It was basically stolen from him when he became physically unable to keep up with everything. And only when he passed did his name become up for sale, and then they took it away from him. But Ray Robinson was very aware of the worth of his name, and he wanted to keep it. As he always said, and this is a quote from Sugar Ray Robinson, he said, I have $4 million in life, and he said, I spent my money, I didn't gamble my money away, I spent my money on my family, I spent it on, gave it away to people, and some paid it back, some didn't, paid my friends' bills, I bought things, money is to be spent, and that's just how he looked at money. He didn't look at it as, past, like everybody like the worship of money, and he loved it. He only did it to provide for other people. Really, everything else was just for show. He'd buy some things for reward for himself, but that really was it for him. He felt a little shunned the way the doors were closed on him, even though and it was because he owned his own name. They didn't want him to profit off his own name without them having a piece of it. So when he passed, they end up taking his fame, his glory. Next thing you know, now he's the greatest thing that ever lived. When before, they wasn't saying that about Sugar Ray Robinson. It was only a few writers that were, oh, he was the greatest ever. He was this, he was that. They couldn't stand him. They used to always talk down on him. He thinks he knows more. He's not a promoter. He needs to let the promoters do that. You're a fighter. They hated his guts. It sounds familiar? It always repeats itself. So now, you look at a situation where you just did Muhammad Ali's. Now you got, today's age, you got Mike Tyson. Now, Mike Tyson's deal is not disclosed. I remember it being online. I think they taking that down. You can't even see it online for yourself no more. So if you can't see the deal on the television screen and identify with it or on your computer screen, why are they hiding these deals? Because a lot of these corporations don't want you to know what they're doing. They're acquiring wealth. Floyd Mayweather owns his name as of right now. How long will that last before Floyd sells his name? Because your name is what you build it to is worth a lot. When you are retired, not fighting anymore, what you build the status of your name to is synonymous to anything in the world. Michael Jordan, his name, I mean, he owns his name. Michael Jordan owns his name. Look at what he gets just off his name. But is he bigger than Elvis? Nope. Even though until in our day and time, everybody in the world knew who Michael Jordan is. And I mean, these are kids who wasn't even born when he was playing. And they'll tell you the greatest basketball player of all time is Michael Jordan. Never seen him play. Never was even born when he was playing. They were born after he retired. And they'll say Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever lived. Why? Marketing. That's why. Same way people tell you Ali was the greatest fighter of all time, but probably have never seen a Muhammad Ali fight, except for maybe 2 or 3, and tell you he was the greatest fighter that ever lived. Why? Because it is pushed into your brain that Ali is the greatest. So in your brain, Ali is the greatest. And then they say you can't be programmed or deceived or brainwashed. And that, I guess, people were born that way. You were born thinking that. It's like when you're a kid, you watch superheroes on TV, you want to be a superhero. Now, on Saturday morning, you watching people make out same sex on these reality shows on MTV, VH1s, and everybody kissing everybody. You think that's normal, when it's really abnormal behavior. But you think it's normal because they're doing it all in this house. This looks real. So you think it's normal behavior. So of course the kids and everybody growing up going to be confused. And they just going to think maybe this is just the way I'm born. No, stupid. You've been programmed. And that's what parents are failing at. And explaining to their children that this isn't real. This is an agenda. Right? Same thing applies here. An agenda. They steer you to believe something else is great and something else is not great based on the fact of wealth. They want the name. They want to devalue it to take it. Michael Jackson, what did they do to him? Child molestation. Here's this kid coming out. This kid's coming out. The kids ain't saying nothing. Kids ain't saying one word. All they got is the parents of the kids who they didn't gave some money to go in there and lie on this man so they can explain going in his house, raiding his hotels in Vegas, finding nothing, no evidence whatsoever. None. Nothing was found. But they go in there and tear up his music studio. Why would they go in there and tear up his music studio? What does his music got to do? And I mean, they didn't just tear it up. They stole music and didn't even return it. They didn't want this man creating anything to add to his brand. And you're going to say, why would they do that? Because Michael Jackson owned wealth. It shouldn't have been given to him, but he acquired it. And they have been angry at him ever since. Yoko Ono sold him those Beatle analogs, in their catalog rather. And inside the Beatles catalog, Michael Jackson didn't just own that. He owned Sly and the Family Stone. He owned a lot of musicians' catalogs that he would give those families royalties to. Something that the other companies owned, that the white companies own today. Like James Brown's. They own all James music. And James got to perform till he 80, till he die. His family ain't getting no royalty checks. You see, they use you up You die, they still get paid off you and send their kids to school. Now, until you learn what's going on or try to research instead of going to World Star Hip Hop and seeing what black person just peed on another black person, you ain't never going to see or never going to learn what's going on in the world. They're going to keep you distracted with stupidity. And when they keep you distracted with stupidity, that's how you ignore it. It's right there happening in front of you. You're going to be, man, that's messed up. Ooh, Shamika punched Rodney. Oh, I gotta send this to somebody. Shamika just punched Rodney. And you're like, who in the hell is that? But that's what they're selling you now. Stuff that are not relevant as news is being passed over to you as news. And look what they did to Michael to get the wealth. The man put up part of his Beatle catalog as collateral, which is worth billions and billions of dollars. Put his catalog on the line so he can put an album out. Sony deliberately sabotaged this album. Deliberately. So that he couldn't make the revenue so that they can get a portion of that royalty. It's clear sabotage. It got Tony got fired because it was so blatant of what they did trying to rob this man of his catalog. They wanted to get in so bad because they know how much money that's going to be worth forever. Beatles forever. By him owning some of those songs, that's going to be worth billions. Because it's not like they're going to stop promoting the Beatles. They can't. They're white. And they got the people that own money, they want that success. They want their money. So Michael was still getting that money. But they had to sabotage his music because Michael Jackson owned his own music. All of it. He owned his own catalog. How many artists has that? He owned it. The MJJ. So what did they do? They sabotage him. Make up lies so that the radios don't play his music. You didn't hear a Michael Jackson note. You didn't hear anything until he died. You could not hear Thriller on the radio. You couldn't hear Billie Jean. You couldn't hear nothing even on the old classic stations. Michael Jackson was banned from radio completely. Soon as he died, his music was all everywhere. Michael. Big Michael-thon. Now they Circus Olay. We got Michael Jackson performing. They're going to do everything else to undo what they've done. Now all of a sudden, oh, the kid lied. Wasn't no molestation. All of it was a lie. Now they got to build his brand up because it's worth millions and billions of dollars. That's going to happen every year. They're going to keep making money off this man's death. And you think I'm just sitting here just saying this just cuz. It's the facts. It's the truth. And if y'all don't see that this is what's happening, then hey, it's just going to continue to go on and go on through history. Hopefully somebody sees this video and say, hey, I'm a fighter. I'm going to protect my name and I'm going to try to keep it. I don't care what they do. But I'm not going to give them away my wealth so they can feed their kids on and my kids going to starve.